Tony Ferguson popped into our lives on The Ultimate Fighter Season 13. He was the third pick on Team Lesnar and made it all the way to the finals June 4th, 2011. Tony beats Ramsey Nijem in the first round by KO, becoming the winner of The Ultimate Fighter Season 13. September 24th, 2011, Tony makes his UFC debut against Aaron Riley and beats him in the first round by KO, breaking his jaw. December 3rd, 2011, Tony takes on Yves Edwards and he beats him by unanimous decision. May 5th, 2012, Tony is set to take on Michael Johnson and Michael Johnson wins by unanimous decision, handing Tony his first loss in the UFC. A journalist had this to say about Tony after his loss to Johnson. Ferguson may not be everything we cracked him up to be. He earned a victory over Yves Edwards, but when taking another step up in competition, he was outclassed completely. He needs to work on making his striking flow. By throwing more combos and looking for power shots a little bit less. He needs to work on making his striking flow. Please remember this sentence when you see clips later on in the video. I really like to think that Tony saw this article and took it personally, because the streak he would go on from here is absolutely legendary. Tony takes 17 months off and returns on October 19, 2013, where he beats Mike Rio in the first round with a Bravo choke. May 24th, 2014, Tony takes on Katsunori Kinkono and he beats him in the first round with a KO. Then on August 30th, 2014, Tony takes on Danny Castillo and he beats him by a split decision. It was a very close fight. December 6th, 2014, Tony takes on Abel Trijulo and he beats him in the second round with a rear naked choke. February 28th, 2015, Tony set to take on Gleison Tibau and he beats him with a first round rear naked choke. This win gets Tony into the lightweight rankings. July 15th, 2015, Tony takes on Josh Thompson and beats him by unanimous decision. December 11th, 2015, the Ultimate Fighter Season 22 finale, Tony is set to take on Khabib Nurmagomedov. For one reason or another, between 2015 and 2020, this fight was made and cancelled 5 times. Khabib had a rib injury, Tony had a bad weight cut, Khabib had a bad weight cut, Tony blew his knee out, and then a fucking global pandemic. This fight was just not meant to happen, and the whole Tony and Khabib saga is a video all on its own I will come back to at another time. Edson Barboza steps in on short notice to replace Khabib and Tony beats him with a second round Bravo choke. This moves Tony to number 5 in the lightweight rankings. July 13th, 2016, Tony takes on Lando Venata and he beats him with a second round Bravo choke. November 5th, 2016, Tony takes on Rafael dos Anjos and beats him by unanimous decision. This is the biggest win in Tony's career up to this point. This sets up an interim title fight October 7th, 2017 against Kevin Lee. Tony beats Lee in the third round of a triangle, becoming the interim lightweight champion. The lightweight division at the time is an absolute shit show. Conor is off trying to fight Floyd Mayweather instead of defending either one of his titles. Tony is set to take on Khabib again July 4th, 2018, UFC 223. This time to find out who the undisputed lightweight champion of the world is going to be. The week of the fight, Tony blows his knee out, tripping over some cables whilst he's doing media. He needs surgery, so he has to pull out of the fight. Number 11, Al Iaquinta, steps in on short notice and Khabib beats him, becoming the undisputed lightweight champion of the world. Tony is stripped of his interim title due to his injury. To say he's devastated would be an understatement. Tony makes a crazy quick recovery. He returns on October 6, 2018 to take on Anthony Pettis in the co-main event of the infamous UFC 229 pay-per-view, Nurmagomedov vs McGregor. The fight is stopped at the end of the second round due to Anthony Pettis breaking his hand. Regardless, it was a classic Tony performance. He was back. June 8th, 2019, Tony takes on Donald Cerrone and the fight's waved off at the end of the second round. Donald blows his nose, both of his eyes just pop. The ref calls the fight immediately, but Cerrone was already in absolute state. Tony was clearly winning the fight. May 9th, 2020, UFC 249, Gaethje versus Ferguson. Tony takes an ungodly amount of damage in this fight, and in the closing moments of the 5th round, the fight is waved off. Justin Gaethje beats Tony Ferguson by a TKO. Tony's 12-fight win streak, stretching nearly a decade, was snapped just like that. December 2020, Tony takes on Charles Oliveira and is honestly lucky to make it out of the fight with his fucking limbs attached. Oliveira sinks in a really deep armbar, and we were just waiting for Tony's arm to break, but Tony is such a savage, he refused to tap. Oliveira wins by unanimous decision, handing Tony his 2nd loss in a row. May 15th, 2021, Tony is set to take on Beneil Dariush, and Beneil wins by unanimous decision, handing Tony his 3rd loss in a row. May 7th, 2022, Tony is set to take on Michael Chandler, and in the 2nd round, Chandler lands a perfectly timed front kick, knocking Tony out cold. This is now his 4th loss in a row. September 10th, 2022, Tony is set to take on Li Jingliang in the co-main event of UFC Diaz versus Chimaev. Hamzat misses weight by nearly 10 pounds amongst other dramas in the week, and then suddenly Tony is set to take on Nate Diaz in the main event. Diaz submits Ferguson in the 4th round of a guillotine, becoming the first person to submit Tony. Tony has now lost 5 in a row. In what feels like a blink of an eye, we've gone from it's Tony time to it's time, Tony. I'm choosing to remember Tony not for his recent bad form, but instead as a man who dominated one of the toughest divisions in combat sports history for nearly a decade. He struck fear into the hearts of every single man in that division. He really was a real-life El Cucuy, a boogeyman. What do you think is next for Tony Ferguson? Where does he go from here? Please comment down below and let me know, and subscribe if you enjoy MMA content. Thank you so much.